At this point, we've covered some of the basics about communication. Let's turn our attention to the components of communication. Now, there's a sender. The sender is the person who initiates the message. To create the message, they encode. Encoding is when you translate your thoughts into words. So if you have an idea in your head or something you want to say or communicate non-verbally, you must encode. Maybe you want to tell someone they have nice shoes. Well, you could actually verbally say, "Nice shoes," or you could point at their shoes and wink your eye. Now that message can be sent out verbally or non-verbally. Messages can be composed of words and or non-verbal actions, such as maybe our body movement. Then there's a channel. Channel is the means by which we share that communication. So maybe you communicate through a letter, or maybe you communicate through your phone, or maybe you communicate face-to-face. Those are channels. Now let's shift to the receiver. The receiver is the person who takes in the message. If you point at the receiver's shoes and wink, they'll probably understand, "You think my shoes are nice." That would be an example of decoding, trying to interpret what does your message mean. With every single communication, there is also a possibility of noise. This can be actual physical noise, or it could be mental noise. Maybe you have a thought in your head, and because you have that thought, you're not focusing on the speaker. Maybe you are hungry and thinking about a sandwich. You completely miss out on what your significant other tells you. Maybe you had a bad day, and there's emotional noise or psychological noise. Everything you hear just sounds horrible. Then there's feedback. Feedback is a response to the message that the receiver gives to the sender. Think of feedback as the receiver's message. And then there's the context. The context is the broad circumstances or situation. It will usually shape the entire communication process. All those components together make up the transactional model. You can see here that we have two parties simultaneously sending and receiving messages. There's a simultaneous exchange. She's the sender and receiver, and he's also a sender and receiver. So no matter who you are in the situation, you're both sending and receiving messages from the other person. You can see that the message is sent through a channel with a code. Each person has their own frame of reference that shapes their individual perspectives on the situation. These may be two friends. That would shape the context of this conversation. Maybe these are two classmates who don't know each other, or maybe they're romantically interested in each other. All those things would shape how they communicate. But no matter how we communicate, realize there's always a potential for a little bit of noise. Maybe in how we encode, or how we decode, or maybe in the actual exchange of the message. The other day, I was having a conversation and a really loud motorcycle decided to drive by while I was talking. That was some actual physical noise. So remember, even if you're the one talking, you're still receiving other people's messages, even if it's just nonverbal. You never really stop sending and receiving. It's really an ongoing process. Now, we all want to be competent communicators. I don't think anyone would argue against that. So, what is communication competence? It is the ability to take part in an effective communication that is characterized by skills and understanding that enable communicators to exchange messages successfully. To do that, we need to do the following. First, be self-aware. I had one student from the past who didn't have the best facial expressions. She always looked angry and mean. When she told me that my class was her favorite class, I didn't believe her. But I remembered she's talked about this before, how her nonverbal face expressions don't really match up to what she feels on the inside. And because of my class, she has become more aware of those times when she's had resting frowny face, and she's wanted to change that. So already she's making moves to be a more confident communicator by just becoming more self-aware. Also think about responsiveness and adaptability. Being able to be flexible and change your communication to fit the needs of different people is a pure sign of competence. Being able to respond in very little time and say, okay, this is what's needed from me, shows that you can really do your stuff when it comes to communication. When it comes to how you center your message, it's really, really easy to be self-centered. You spend 24/7 with yourself. But competent communicators try to be other-oriented. They try to focus on other people because they know, hey, I want to make sure that my audience understands me just as clearly as I understand me. Then there's cognitive complexity. Sometimes there's going to be some miscommunication. You may say it one way and you think you said it the best way possible, but you said it the best way possible for you. Maybe the other person needs it to be said a different way. Maybe they learn things differently. So being able to realize there's multiple ways of saying the same exact thing shows that cognitive complexity. And lastly, ethics and civility. A competent communicator is going to communicate ethically. They want to be trustworthy. They want to show that they have integrity. They want to show that they're fair. They're also going to be civil and kind to other people. But keep in mind that being kind doesn't mean that you're a doormat, that you let people walk all over you. Competent communicators are actually quite assertive. They don't let people trample on their ideas, but they also know when it's appropriate to voice their opinions and when it's not appropriate to voice their opinions. And when they do voice their opinions, they don't offend other people. So I hope you have a better understanding of the components of the communication process, the transactional nature of communication, and the ways that we can be competent communicators. Don't forget I mentioned that yes, there are some common myths to communication that we have to bust. Stay tuned for the next video for that one.